respectful of people's time and start exactly at 9. So it gives you about 10 minutes to refresh your coffee or drinks or get some goodies that were provided by ESF. And please find a seat. So you can network after, continue and network after, and we'll begin promptly at 9. Thank you. Good morning. We're going to get started. Those that don't know me or want to admit you know me, I'm Jody Manning. I have the privilege and honor to be part of the STEAM high school team. And I keep telling people that it's been a complete honor and privilege, and probably one of the best teams I've ever worked on in my career. And I've been around for a while, because you can see how old I am. So this morning, we are going to have a welcome the President ESF, who was a strong supporter when she was a county executive of this initiative. Won't be able to be here, but we have a competent replacement. Has really been a great support for this kickoff. And so it gives me pleasure to introduce Matt Milan.
All right, good morning. All right, there you go. Welcome to ESF. I'm thrilled that you can all be here. On behalf of President Mahoney, again, welcome. She's sorry she couldn't be here today, but she is really excited that you're all here and that you're talking about advancing the STEAM school and ESF playing a critical role in the development of the curriculum and bringing the first cohort in. I think in 2023 is the target, which we're really excited about. But our doors are open to you throughout this entire discussion and throughout the planning phases. We want to be a part of these dialogues. We want our faculty to be a part of the growth of the students that will ultimately go to this school, and hopefully you'll be growing future ESF graduates at the STEAM school. We're also critically focused, as many of you are, on the development of trades for students that may not choose to. But I see Randy nodding his head. He was a great participant in the task force that our board of directors led recently on certifications. And whether or not the students come here is not our most important priority. Our most important priority is giving pathways to success for students in our community and throughout the country, really. But I read an article on Tuesday which highlighted the construction industry itself is short 1 million employees. So there's tremendous opportunity here for us to create pathways for success. Joni is very excited about the progress of the STEAM schools down the hill, and ESF is going to play a big part of the rollout, the build up, and eventually the graduates of that institution. So Mr. Superintendent, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for being here today. I hope you'll have a great discussion today, and best wishes as we move forward. Thank you.
About 5-6 years ago, a new superintendent was appointed at Syracuse City School District. I think it was the next day I received a call and it said, Jody, I have an idea that we will have opportunity and access to programs for every student in Central New York, and we will become an economic engine for Central New York. What do you think we sit down and talk and partner? And this is really how it started. The individual that I'm going to introduce, this was his vision. He's one of the most passionate school superintendents in the country. And
sorry, okay. I'm listening to a meeting I have to be part of.
He says that, you know, these are his students. These are his students. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the superintendent of the Syracuse School District.
Oil from lumbar pillow. It's $50.
Okay, hold on a second, Julie. I gotta make sure I'm muted.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning and to have the opportunity to share with you our vision for the first non-SIPCO school in Central New York, a school without SIPCOs, without boundaries. And this conversation began 5 years ago with Steve Swift, who is here, and he asked me to go out for lunch to talk about CTE in Syracuse, New York, and the work that we have done to engage more students and more families in career and technical education. We're not going to have Steve come up and talk about the idea because we only have an hour for the presentation this morning, and we know how passionate it is about career and technical education in Central New York. But we were excited about the opportunity to talk about the first countywide STEAM school for Central New York. Immediately, we had support from many businesses like Magni, other colleges, universities in the area. And we began to plan about how can we put this together. We saw the Central Tech High School building that is in the corner of Salina and Warren Street that has the best auditorium from what I heard, because I wasn't here at the time, but has the best auditorium in Central New York. And we wanted to bring that back. We wanted to give the students in Central New York, in Syracuse and in Onondaga County, the opportunity to perform on that stage. We talked to Syracuse University, we talked to ESF, we talked to OCC, Lemoyne, we talked to the city, and everyone said this is gonna be a great opportunity. So we began to plan our arts program. We began to talk about the other pathway that we have and to align that with the work that we have been doing in the Syracuse City School District. 7 years ago, we began CTE in Syracuse with only 5 pathways. Now we have 27 pathways that our kids are participating in. So we want to continue to provide these opportunities for our kids. We want to continue to provide these opportunities for our community. We are developing programs for job opportunities that are going to be available right here in Central New York. We don't want to lose our kids. We don't want to lose the future, the potential that we have in Central New York. So the work that we're going to be doing together, the colleges, the district, the 18 school district in Onondaga County are going to be instrumental for the development and transformation of the STEAM high school in Central New York. So I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment. And we will have exciting things and great news coming out of the first STEAM high school countywide in Central New York. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce the President of the Board of Education, Dan Robio.
Morning, everyone. Sorry. Both here and virtually. So on behalf of the Board of Education, I really want to thank everybody for being here. The board has talked about increasing CTE and it has supported the superintendent in his work. And that's really easy to do when you have a great team like we have over here in these 4. But what brings Syracuse to the next level is all of you partnering with the district to make our programs so much better and helping our students to get all those extra opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have. So from a board perspective, we really value those partnerships that we have with all of you and the work that you do with our students, because that is really what makes CTE in Syracuse different and what adds that value to it. So there's a great presentation coming up, but I just wanted to say I appreciate your time, I appreciate your effort, and I appreciate what you do for our students in Syracuse. So thank you all.
Good. Now we'll get right into the program. We know your time is precious and we respect it. Being a former teacher, we wanted to lay it all out that what we expect to talk about today and the expectations of our asks you. First, we're going to give a quick overview of the STEAM High School. If you want more detail on the STEAM High School, we do have presentations. We can do individual sessions. We can do it for your organization. So we're going to give a global view and then our next step with the CTE. We're going to talk about the process, really keep the end in mind. Why are we going in this direction and how are we going to do it? But I want to state that everything is fluid. This is the first time anything like this has been done. So we know that we may have to take a few detours, follow your expertise. So this is a collaborative process and I think it's exciting. And it's long overdue in public education, in my opinion. Then we're going to share the programs that are going to be offered in that facility and how we came about it. And then we're going to talk about how we're creating a program. And I will talk about it. You're here for the CTE side. The art side actually had a kickoff and started putting the arts programs together pre-COVID. And we'll talk about it, that this will be integrated as we go through the presentation. Really, the call to action is we need your time and expertise. And we're big on, if we're going to ask for time and expertise, and before you sign up, I'd want to know what I'm going to get myself into. You know, we're not asking for financial commitment, we're asking for time. What is this a commitment you're making to help guide and collaborate this program? Before we begin, it's amazing CTE team. Again, in my prior life, worked an awful lot with state ed and with CTE, been all over the country. I can confidently say that the CTE programs in Syracuse are the best in the state, if not the country. And it's because this team right over here. And you'll be hearing from the new director, Bruno, shortly. Susan and Nick are crucial of putting these programs together. They are subject matter experts in building CTE programs. Susan will be talking later. Nick is sitting there virtually for questions. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. If you're online, email the question to Nick, and if we can't address them here, we will definitely email back to you. So tentatively, it was stated that the freshman class will enter into this program in the fall of 2023. This will be the freshman class because we know this will be a very unique initiative and it will be laddered up. What I mean by that is 9th grade will come in, the next year to 10th grade, 11 and 12. This will not be like a typical high school where you can come in and transfer. Everything is scaffolded together. Like you said, it will be the first regional high school in New York State, and it allows opportunity access for all students. Now, there are a number of schools across the country that are STEM and they're arts, but very few that we can find that everything gets integrated into a STEAM program, which talking to businesses, or you in the room, and the arts absolutely ecstatic about it. The technical side says we absolutely love that you're doing the creative side where you're looking through the creative lens on the technical side. And even the art says it's fantastic how students are getting exposed to the technical side. And we'll talk more about the program. Now, so who's going to be involved? And I applaud the Syracuse School District saying, you know, this is, we, and the superintendent and I often talk about this along with Steve Swift, we're breaking zip codes. Public schools in New York State, the opportunity access for students depends on where you live. It's just the way it is. Your zip code defines it. We're breaking zip codes where 60% of the student population will come from the Syracuse School District. 40 will come from, you know, Central New York school districts. And the legislation is already established, so they do have the opportunity to come here. Approximately 1,000 students will attend. Again, these are estimates starting with 250 and every year scaffolding up. Where's it going to be? The Old Central High School. Beautiful building, interior, exterior. The Syracuse School District has done an outstanding job with the upkeep of the building. The last class graduated in 1975. 1,800, approximately 1,800, 180,000 square feet. We'll be renovating it to meet the needs of the programs, but it has an 1,800 seat Lincoln Auditorium with perfect acoustical sound. It is gorgeous and be revitalized. So we're working on 4 committees to get this initiative off the ground. The first, and you'll see it's highlighted, are the academic programs. And I'll explain why, because we're taking a reverse engineering approach to this, building this program. The partnerships, which have already been established with the Partnership Council and continue today, and with your presence, we appreciate it. It is a collaborative approach. We want everybody's expertise developing this program. I always said subject matter experts. In schools, we have subject matter experts putting together curriculum, teaching, working with state ed certification, but we don't have the subject matter experts on the CT side with the programs we're going to be talking about. We didn't have them on the art, but we put the subject matter experts together, and we feel that we can establish the most rigorous, outstanding program possible. There will be a renovation and then recruitment. Those have not been established yet because until we establish what programs are going to be there, there's no need to talk about renovation. And how do you recruit? And we say recruit students, staff, other businesses, if we don't know exactly what's going to take place in that building. So those are coming, and they're coming fast. But on the program side, we will have arts, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We will have endorsed CTE programs. You'll hear me say, because my prior life when I worked for state ed, CT has become a buzzword across the state and country. I always say certified, which Syracuse works towards, certified CT programs. If it's not certified, it's an elective, and there's nothing wrong with electives. These are certified state endorsed programs. And what will be very, very unique about this concept is we haven't found it yet. We're still looking, but we feel we will be the first where the arts and the CT will be integrated. As I mentioned, the arts have started their program and curriculum pre-COVID, delay because of COVID, which we've all experienced. We are now asking for assistance to put the CT, and then we're going to try to put the two together. How we're going to do it, we don't know. So this is what I believe is the exciting part doing. I love doing things that's never been done before. When a student comes through this STEAM high school, they were exposed to everything. They may have a concentration or specialize in dance, but they're going to be exposed to on the technical side. And actually with national organizations, they're actually talking to us about, should we make arts and the program CT indoors? And I said, by all means, you have the expertise in-house, let's talk about it. And Syracuse City was the first one for CT endorsed programs in many different areas. Why not be the arts? So those are the discussion and enthusiasm throughout the state. So the visual arts, these are the programs that the arts group put together through the same process we're using for CTE. 2 and 3D art, media, and communication. And you can see how a lot of this will merge perfectly into the technical side with the communication and the arts. The performing arts, the theater, especially when you have that auditorium there, the technology, dance, and music. And talking to the arts people, they're really excited that the arts people are going there not only to specialize in those areas, but they're going to expose the other areas. And you can see it's all communication. I won't put people to sleep by doing interpretive dance on this presentation, but you can see it's all about presentation and the creative writing. And we'll talk about how we did a needs assessment, and writing and communication were one of the major factors in the curriculum that people wanted. So that brings us to, on the CT side, what we've heard from the community, that this is the need. The data analytics, and it came through with the unmanned pilots. When I talk about the Syracuse School District and the unmanned pilots, I said what was very neat about the Syracuse School District, what they did so well, I call it peeking around the corner. Other school districts and BOCES always look down the road. They actually looked around the corner and say, where is the need? And the unmanned pilots, you were cutting edge. But what we're hearing is data drives everything now. These unmanned aircrafts accrue all this data. What do you do with it? We're hearing about robotics. We had a great visit over at Amazon, and the robotics are never down. They're 24/7 because somebody's always reading the data. So we have to have students being able to utilize this data and the engineering. The construction management is mentioned, not only the trades, BOCES and Syracuse Office of Trade, but how do you put it all together? How do you oversee it? Project management, and again, in the green technology, everything that is being talked about, and especially here at ESF, is how do we put this together and prepare students to enter into that field and sector? Obviously, the robotics, not only big, and we know the announcement and greatly appreciate Amazon donating over $1 million for the equipment. So they see that the future employees, and times people call it the incubator for their employees, because they're actually doing the pathway to prepare students to go into their industry. But we also saw it with upstate. I know people from upstate, when they had a nice visit up there, the robotics that are in for surgery. Me getting old and health failing, I'm glad that we have that in our backyard. Next, the entrepreneurship. And I'll talk a little bit more about the needs assessment that came about, but we always hear about financial, and these students coming out of high school are phenomenal. The way they think is, how do you think differently? How do you start your own business? We have the Tech Garden here as a partner. So those are areas that we need your assistance to put the curriculum together so we can go to state ed and get the program certified, and then also at the same time get teacher certification. One thing that when I was like in my former life, it drove me crazy, working with school districts, people kind of hid behind the regs. Well, you can't, we have to offer the silos of English, math, and science. You have to meet the regulations, but there's an art and science, and you can do it differently as long as you meet the regs. And I think people are a little skittish about it, or the easy way is just to follow the 45 minutes, 45 minutes. The CT folks have done a phenomenal job in meeting the requirements with the Carnegie units, but at the same time, making it engaging. People have heard me say that I don't personally believe we have a dropout problem across this country. We have a disengagement problem. And when students get disengaged, they start getting disengaged in middle school. Another thing, Syracuse is cutting edge, bringing CT all the way down into kindergarten. But when students get engaged and they see purposeful learning, they stay active. And you don't have to go any further than the Syracuse School District with the data. When you're excited, you're engaged, you come to school, you learn, and you see a purpose. So, you'll hear a lot of my pet peeves, and being a retiree, it's nice that I can really speak my mind, but I don't believe we have a dropout problem. We have a disengagement problem. And that's what the Syracuse School District is doing so great, is engaging students. So, how did we get where we're here? Said, it was a conversation years ago about opportunity access and meeting the skills gap for Central New York. Well, we took a reverse engineering process. We did a needs assessment, partnered with MACNY and Center State. Can't thank you guys enough. You carried the heavy lift for us. And we went out to the community and said, what needs do you need, for your future workforce? Now, talking to some people said, that was brilliant. But if you look at the history of secondary education, about 150 years ago, that's how high school started. High schools were started by meeting the needs of the assembly line. It was standardization and compliance. So students, that's why we have the bells. You're going from 45 minutes, 40 minutes, you're getting you ready for the assembly line. That no longer exists. We just stayed there. So we took this approach and partnered with MACNY and Center State and said, before we start building something, let's build what a need is. And we'll get into a little more detail. Program developed. From this information, we started building programs. I said the art sector, because pre-COVID, we would have been right there if it wasn't for COVID, has got it started. We are now at the starting point with CT, and there's where we need your expertise. In the non-nutritional approach of putting programs in school, said, had a number of opportunities with school construction projects, actually building brand new schools. Traditional approach is build a school and then you try to put the program in there. We are taking a different approach where we said, what's the program look like? What does the space need? And then we'll work with an architect and the expertise in this room saying what the room and the building needs to look like. So that's with the reverse process, and then the construction starts. So again, thank you to MACNY and Center State. They did a survey that went over about over 100 organizations replied. So I don't know the exact number it went out. Several of you probably received the survey, or maybe it was passed to you by your supervisor, but we appreciate it. And the information we received was on the technical side, and that's how we got the programs. But in my opinion, more importantly, we got the essential skills side. Some people call it soft skills. We said we can do the technical side, we know that, but what's just as important is the areas we're going to talk about. The survey came back the most desirable skills, and some of them probably no surprise, but the competencies are really the work ethic and the critical thinking and problem solving. So the traditional secondary high school was standardization and compliance, and that's how students were coming out. Now we're hearing we want people to be able to think on their own, be creative and problem solve, and the work ethic. And so we want to make sure that when we build programs and curriculum, there are ways to implement work ethic and how to measure it. And I'll talk a little bit, the CT does anyhow, and shortly. The education was very interesting, and they got 4-year and associates. What came out from the survey for over 100 organizations was we now not necessarily need the 4-year degree. The 4-year degree is really for certification if you have to do the job. But having a 2-year degree or a CT or going through P-TECH is just as valuable, and in certain areas even more valuable, because students can come to the workforce, and we want to encourage more training, more education, but doing it parallel. You know, I said in my former life with CTE, I said what we wanted students to do is have three options: go to higher ed directly, go into the workforce, or what we were finding was parallel. They were going into the workforce, learning from the subject matter experts, and at the same time continuing their education, evenings or getting training. So no way did the assessments say get certain education or training and stop. It is continual. The career readiness, the personal accountability, demonstrate positive workforce attitudes in the workplace. I remember somebody said, well, how do you measure that? Well, I think a lot of people don't realize in CT is measured all the time. When you go through CT in the simplest way, in my ways, you get three things. You get a Regents diploma, you pass the CTE assessment, you get the seal. And the other thing I believe is just as important, if not more important, is the employability profile, where students come out and they have teachers and employers give you a form saying, were you dependable? Were you on time? Gives you, and it's right on the web for CTE, Syracuse School District. So if you haven't had a chance, take a look at it. I have two daughters in high school, and one was looking for a summer job. Value added, she went to employers with a resume and references. But to give her more marketable, wouldn't it have been nice if she had an employability profile where she can show a potential employer that, look, these are outside people saying, I will be here on time every time. I will be dressed appropriately. I will have these expectations. So that is embedded in CT. It occurs, but we hear it very clear. We want students ready to walk into a professional environment. Again, no surprise with the communication skills, verbal and nonverbal. And, you know, I know with all the texting and the experience of my own daughters, when I get the IDK and say, what does that mean? I don't care. I don't know. So it has to stop. But communication skills are very, very important. And that is incorporated in CT, and you can see the art side, how that can be really, really enforced and really build that skill. The other side is the creativity. It said it was standardization and compliance in the past. And one business does that so well and said, Jody, we don't need to hire anybody that's going to get facts, figures, and formulas off the internet. We need, everyone has a problem, and we want people to come and be able to give creative ways to solve it. Even on the technical side, they said, we love that the arts are getting involved because it's that creative lens to solving something that's been around for a while, that somebody takes a look at it differently. And again, on the art side, saying the career and technical aspect is so important. And the students coming from there, when we integrate the two, will be just phenomenal employees for you in the future. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the CT director to talk about CT technical education in the Syracuse School District and what has occurred in the process, which again, coming from the outside, the Syracuse School District needs to be extremely, extremely proud. If it's not the best in the state, I don't know who would be, and I'm going to say best in the country.
Thank you, Dr. Manning, and thank you everyone for coming today and joining us and being a part of this partnership that is going to move forward with the new STEAM High School and hopefully with all 27 programs that we already have established in the Syracuse City School District. Like Dr. Manning had said, and the superintendent had mentioned earlier as well, we've become a model through New York State, and it's as easy as clicking on our CTE website off of the SCSD website to see the creation of our programs. We hide nothing. Everything is there, our curriculum, our scope, our sequence, and everything. Part of that is through our mission. And our mission has been and will continue to be to provide our scholars in the SCSD CTE programs with the skills necessary to meet the needs of the community and the business and industry experts, all of you, including higher education. Again, like Jody had mentioned before, we're looking to open opportunities and open doors for our scholars, whether they're going to join the workforce upon graduation or enter higher education or do both parallel at the same time. We want them to be ready. This is just one statistic that we can share with you. under the support of Superintendent Alicea and the Board of Education in the Syracuse City School District, we've grown our programs from 4 to 27 programs. And our enrollment has drastically increased as well within those programs, but this is just one piece. Our CTE scholars in the Syracuse City School District perform better on state tests, have better attendance, and have higher graduation rate than non-pathway students in the Syracuse City School District. In addition, and more importantly, when scholars who graduate with CTE endorsements, they're better prepared to enter higher education and ready for the workforce. Right now, we have 27 CTE programs, from our traditional programs like culinary and cosmetology to more service programs like fire rescue, law enforcement, and our urban teaching prep program to our more technical programs like computer forensics and geospatial technology. In addition to that, Dr. Manning had mentioned it before, that we participate in the PTEC, the New York State PTEC program, which is also a national program, which is the Pathway to Early College High School. A number of our students who are in these PTEC programs, from drone technology, electrical technology, clinical technology, start taking college courses as early as 9th grade. Right now, what we want to talk about is how we actually develop our programs. And for that, I'm going to bring up CTE coordinator, Sue Centaur, to talk about that.
Thanks, Bruno. So the business and community partnerships, so when we talk about creating a new program, so as you look at all the ones we've done so far, we always have these 4 major components. The business and community partnerships and the post-secondary engagement are huge because we have to make sure our goal is to provide the students with those skills and knowledge that they need to have to be successful at that next level, whether they go to work or they go to college. And we've consistently done that with tremendous partnerships with many of you that are sitting here. The component regarding CTE teacher recruitment and retention is another really big component. Because as you can imagine, you may end up, we could have somebody who is a cybersecurity analyst in August and is a cybersecurity teacher in September. That's kind of a steep learning curve. So we want to make sure we're supporting those teachers, because even though they are very engaging and they have tremendous expertise and they're very passionate about sharing their expertise, they've never been teaching before. So we have a very deliberate, systematic approach of onboarding those teachers to make sure that we can support them and retain them. And we can have them not just be great teachers, but effective teachers so that those kids are coming out with great skills. And then we're going to talk today mostly about the curriculum development. So our curriculum is always developed linked to standards, national standards. The standards are the Common Core Career Standards. It's a very deliberate process that we do when we start to create a program and build curriculum for that program. As these guys mentioned earlier, you plan it with the end in mind, right? You're always thinking about what are the skills and what do students need to know and be able to do when they leave those programs. So that's why we have our subject matter expertise to tell us what are those skills that we need to make sure kids know what they're doing when they leave. So a lot of it is based on the standards, and these standards are based on every single possible discipline. They were created nationally to make sure that the CTE curriculum was rigorous and standards-based. And it also is very inclusive of those career-ready practices. We infuse them definitely in all the curriculum from 9 through 12, and we're going to try to start to move them into the middle school, because we know that those career-ready practices, those are those skills and behaviors that make successful adults. And we also know that if we can get to the students early and we can start to cultivate those habits, it will make their life in high school easier, as well as when they go on to college or their career. All those habits of successful adults, communication, responsible citizen, creativity, all those things Jody actually mentioned earlier. But so it's a 3-pronged approach. We have people from experts in the area, our business and college partners. We have our ongoing support from those people. Also, we have the standards, and then we have our teachers eventually start to write. And the curriculum process that we start, we never really finish. It's an ongoing process of continuous improvement. Bruno's going to call to action.
Thanks, Ms. Centaur. And she's going to come back up in a minute. So she has her turn again. So what do we need? What do we have to do? Our call to action is, like Dr. Manning had mentioned before, the creation or the continuation of a partnership with all of you. We need help. We need help in creating this curriculum so that it is the dynamic curriculum that Ms. Centaur had mentioned, always changing and always meeting the needs of the communities so that we can best serve our scholars to serve you in the community when they graduate or when they leave our STEAM high school. The academic program design committee that we're asking you to join today is the fundamental building block of this entire building. Dr. Manning had talked about the reverse engineering model in every aspect of the STEAM school, but without this fundamental piece of the academic curriculum being built and continuing to be amended and adapted and adjusted as we move along, all those other building blocks upon us will fail. So we need you, and this to me is the most important aspect of building the STEAM school and moving forward. With our partnership together and our continuation to build these programs, we can build a dynamic curriculum that'll ever be changing to help scholars fulfill the community, business, and industry needs within the central New York community. And like Superintendent Alicea said, we want to grow our own. We want our kids to stay here, and we want Syracuse to be the economic engine that drives not only New York State, but also the nation. So what do we have to do, and how do we do this? Ms. Centaur is going to explain all that.
So let me paint a picture here for you. So what does this look like? Some of you that are here have already helped us do this, I know, in other programs. So we start with a first meeting where we get people who are interested in helping us based on one of the 4 curriculums that we need, robotics or construction trades, for example. If you have expertise in the area, we get those people in a room and we just start a brain dump, right? We're just trying to just brainstorm everything we can think of. What are, again, focusing on those skills and knowledge that kids, what do they need to know and be able to do at the end of this pathway? Mostly it's just getting all that information down to start with. It's kind of a messy process in the beginning. And as we go through, we start to think about, as we're doing all of this, we're thinking also about how all the other connections can come into play. But the first messiness starts, and then there's a lot of iterations after that, right? We'll go back and we'll kind of comb through what makes sense, what needs to be taught first, what needs to be taught next. As we go through, we're also thinking about what are those natural connections into work-based learning or to those college concurrent enrollment credits. So as we start with this kind of messy, just brain dump of everything that's there. And as we comb through the process and we start to pull things out, what makes the most sense? What is the best place to put an early college high school course? What's the best, what we know we need career coaching right away as soon as kids are in 9th grade. But what are the kinds of activities that we should be doing? All of this goes into this thought process as we're getting through to all of this, right? So we start with this big meeting, we comb through it, several iterations of that, and then we kick it back out to our knowledge base, right? Our experts. And they're going to tell us, again, about that order, what makes sense to go first, second, third. What are other things that we need to add? And we talk about that work-based learning. What are those college what are those college classes that are natural connections? It just makes it flow right. And then with a lot of prayers and hard work, eventually we end up with a beautiful final curriculum that will go into on our website with all the rest of them. But it is, this is a very nice, neat picture. It's always not always nice and neat, but it works. We've done this before, and it's never done, right? This is a process that we go through, and we have the meat, the guts of it, but we're always looking to improve it. So even though we start with this ongoing discussion, the brainstorming session, we solidify what business partners make sense, what CTE content, we hopefully by this point, we're thinking about maybe some teachers that could be involved in this. Our goal, as Jody said, our goal is to have New York State certified CTE programs, because if we can do that, and there's some hoops we have to jump through to do that. One of them is to have some great curriculum and have a certified teacher and to have an appropriate assessment, all of those things. But if we do that, it allows us to give the integrated credit to students. It allows them to get Regents Diploma with that added CTE endorsement. It really, those kids who leave, they end up with a portfolio, they end up with that endorsement. These kids have those knowledge and skills. We know what they need to know and be able to do, and they're able to do it when they leave. There's a lot of studies on pathways that even if students don't follow that pathway and do something with that, the fact that they've taken a pathway approach that where there's the CTE certification, it's not just an elective here and an elective there, although there's value to that certainly, but the research shows that kids who have been in that pathway are more successful and more financially stable down the road because they felt that success. They feel themselves to be a little bit of an expert in that area. And then of course, the natural outgrowth of all this are those advisory councils. So every single program has an advisory council that advises on curriculum and work-based learning. They serve as an authentic audience for many projects. They actually help come up with some projects sometimes. They also, so twice a year we meet and they review what we're doing. And this happened, for example, in media, we had our advisory council looked at some of the work we were doing and they were like, you know what, this assessment that you're using is a little outdated. We need to maybe look at something else because the skills that we're using today are different than what they were maybe when we started this program. So we're always looking to be as cutting edge as we can so that these kids are ready to go and can be marketable and have these skills when they leave. Okay. Thank John's coming back.
Thanks again, Ms. Centaur. We're almost through, so I appreciate everybody's patience in listening to us today. But what happens next? In front of you, there is a sheet, a form that you can fill out, or if you want to scan the QR code up here and you're willing to participate in one or multiple committees, please, we ask you that you fill in the form, complete the online document, and we can start this process. Again, like Ms. Centaur had said, our first meeting is tentatively going to be scheduled in October. It'll be a 60 to 90-minute session. And again, to reiterate what Ms. Centaur said, we would love if we could have that hosted at a business or industry partner. We want to be where our scholars will be when they finish these programs. It's the most authentic way to do it, and it'll bring more insight into our development of the curriculum. So if you're willing to, please fill out the form in front of you, scan the QR code and complete the sheet. And we will get back to you with a doodle form to find a time is best to meet for one of these 4 pathways or multiple pathways if you'd like to be involved in the creation of multiple pathways. And again, tentatively in October will be when we start the process. We really want to thank you all. Matthew Millay, thank you for hosting us here, and please send our thanks to President Mahoney for hosting us here at ESF and offering us your campus. Thank you for Commissioner Romeo for attending the event today, and of course, Superintendent Alicea, who has been an advocate and supporter in all this. We are here to field questions if we possibly can today, if we have the answers to that. If we don't have answers today, we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Or if there's a question that you can think of in the future, please feel free to email me. My email address is up here, and so is my phone number over at the district office. This is an absolutely exciting process, and we want you to be on the ground floor, on the ground level, and help us develop and build these curriculum that'll really help Syracuse flourish. But thank you again for joining us today. We're here to field any questions if anyone has any. If not, we hope you take a snack on the way out. Thank you again to SUNY-ESF for hosting us, and we are here to field questions. if anyone has any. If not, that's okay too. Go ahead.
Some of them are quite interesting, exciting, and others maybe on paper don't sound so exciting for ninth grade. And I also, when are they gonna pick?
That's a great question. And we've dealt with our 27 programs in Syracuse City School District already. And what we're finding is that we need to filter it down to our middle schools and even to our K-5s so that they have knowledge about these programs. And again, when we start our recruitment campaign, we will talk about what the benefits are of attending a regional STEAM high school like the STEAM high school will be, and what all the different approaches to education, what that will look like, what our curriculum is going to look like, what the outcome is going to be for our scholars who enter these programs and these pathways, and what doors it opens and what pathways it leads to after 12th grade. So just like our other programs, and as that slide that we showed about our enrollment and how it's been increasing, it's all about the communication. The more we can communicate things, the more clearly we can communicate what we have to offer, the better our enrollment gets. And we're hoping that the same process follows along with the STEAM high school, especially since it's open to all of Central New York and not just the Syracuse City School District. Yes.
Engaging in this opportunity that they been brought to the table.
So one discussion that we've had is we have a number of former SCSD CTE scholars that have gone on to be successful, and we want to bring them in at one point in this process. What was successful, what worked for you when you were in high school, when you were on the CTE track, what could have been done better? What can we tighten up? So all those components of bringing scholars into the fold to make sure that they do have a voice at the table, they will have a voice at the table. The important part is making sure that we know what the needs of the community are and what our business and industry partners need prior to getting our students involved so that they can see what the outline or what the scope and sequence of the program looks like and where we can tighten up and where we can make things better. But thank you for bringing that up and addressing that, because we are here. We are a institution of education. And just like Superintendent said, that's our resource. That's our students, our scholars, our kids of Syracuse, and that's how we're going to grow and develop Syracuse. Come on up, Jody.
The other question was about recruiting students, and I'm glad that was, we can really use your assistance too, as we will bring in guidance counselors and educate students early, but it really makes an impact on students when businesses talk to these students about possible careers. So like when you talk to your own kids, I can say the same thing that my neighbor says to my daughter, but doesn't listen to me. So we will really like to use your partnership for recruiting and making students aware that if you go this pathway, what opportunities you have, because it means a lot more coming from you than it was from me, you know?
Yes, go ahead.
Do we have all the details? Not at this point, so this is fluid, but absolutely agree with you, Harley. Is how do you integrate everything? Again, this is greater Central New York. It's not the Syracuse School District. It's not the component school district. How do we work together? So we're open to ideas, and we definitely want to work it, because you're right, not every student will be able to get in that school, but we want to allow opportunity access as much as possible. And the outside organizations want that the same. So there will be opportunities. Again, I think this is the fun about it. Don't have all the answers, and we'll do it collaboratively.
Yes, go ahead.
During the initial meeting that you're talking about, you're mentioning data analytics, robotics, et cetera. How do you anticipate or consider moving forward? So we're in 2021, in 2030, 2040, the programming may look differently, but you've already designed a building around these pillars, if you will. What does that process look like for identifying trends in the market and make sure that you're still relevant?
I can answer that from our CTE pathways that we have existing already in the Syracuse City School District. When we work with our facilities department, for instance, in furniture and design of the room, what we try to do is keep in mind that it is ever changing and it will be dynamic. So whatever we are purchasing, for instance, or furnishing a room with, it has to be something that isn't going to be consistent and permanent in the room. It has to be something that has some mobility to it, that we can change and that we can adapt and adjust as we move along. Again, we are looking into the future. Even in 2023, we're looking at scholars who will be entering either higher education or the workforce in 2027. And I mean, I wish I could tell you what 2027 looks like. And if I could, I'd probably have a winning lotto ticket in my hand and probably wouldn't be having this discussion with you. But we have to be willing to adapt and to adjust as we move forward. And I think that that's fantastic. And Jody had mentioned it before, part of our design and why this is so important to create this academic curriculum first is because what does it look like in a classroom for robotics, automation, drone technology, data analytics? And can we peek around the corner, like Jody said, to see what it may look like in the future and make sure that we're not pigeonholing ourselves to only be able to serve in this kind of space, for instance. So we are trying to adapt and adjust or keep that in mind. Jody, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No, I just piggyback, and there's where as you subject matter experts can advise us to, the rooms need to be movable down the future, and this is coming. And so many of you are living it day by day. We want your expertise to advise us. So again, this is collaborative, and we're going to capitalize on everybody's expertise, not us, but that's a great point. We don't know what the future looks like, but we need to be able to mobilize and shift very quickly.
Go ahead.
Say yes, college tuition benefit will be extended to the 40% non-city.
We are working to say yes. The plans so they can have access to that. We will probably have to create a separate funding source also for that, but we are working.
Another recruitment tool. Go ahead.
Just looking at this, what measures have you put in place to make sure that it's possible? This equity might, being that we have students coming from various districts, being that we have students from various backgrounds. I noticed looking at even some of the programs, even looking at, cultural humility and diversity and belonging. So what measures have you put in place or thought about that would ensure that we're still going along this process being equity-minded of everybody that's involved?
That's absolutely fantastic that you bring that up. In the Syracuse City School District, we do a lot of work around CRE. And we want to make sure that everything that we do is culturally relevant and that we are equitable to our entire student body. And again, as employers, as businesses, we need the information because we want to give our English language learners, we want to give our students with special needs and accommodations, our students of color, our minority students, everybody has to have an equitable say or an equitable chance to participate in these programs. And again, the training that we do as not just administrators, but as teachers and the entire staff of the Syracuse City School District is all around that culturally relevant mindset. And we'd like to build that into here. When we talk about our Public Service Leadership Academy, PSLA, and the programs that they have and the services that we provide, what better way to provide social reformation than creating a workforce that is going to come back to the city or stay in the city and build upon it. We talk about law enforcement, fire rescue, teachers, our EMTs, our doctors, our nurses, and the STEAM school provide just that as well. We want our students to become our leaders. And that's the best social reformation that we can provide. So excellent. And hopefully we can all discuss that and bring that to the table and make sure that it is infused in all of our curriculum.
In the other part, working with the curriculum and in mind, this is very important, that once we know what students will need to enter these programs, we can back map it. So the students start getting those skills or that education early. There's nothing that breaks my heart more than when a student goes to high school and says, I can't get into a certain program because I missed this math class. So that's another way for equity and diversity, and it has to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but we want to make sure that there is no barriers or roadblocks in any area. So everybody has this opportunity. So thank you for bringing that up.
Is there anything else we can address for today? Well, we really appreciate the time that you put in today. We look forward to building a partnership and a collaborative partnership moving forward. The STEAM High School is a fantastic opportunity for the entire Central New York region, especially for all the kids who will participate in the high school and take part in it. And we thank you for coming. Again, thank you to SUNY-ESF. Thank you, Superintendent and Commissioner Romeo, for attending today. But have a great afternoon. We appreciate you, and hopefully you fill out the form. We'll come around and collect it for you. You can leave it right at your desk. Please take the notepad, and we have a lot of our CTE information over here to my right, your left on this table. If you'd like to take some reading material with you on your way out.
And we have posters say coming soon in STEAM school. Feel free to take as many as you want, display it in your workplace, or just so we're starting to see them come up, that people at least get the excitement and ask the question. So please display it.
Thank you all. Have a great day.